Welcome back, Marvel fans! Unless this is the first video of mine you've seen. In that case, hi. Yesterday we added a Miles Morales ornament on the mini Spider-Verse Christmas tree. You have given me some wonderful ideas on who we should make next. And the character I picked for today is Spider-Gwen. Just like the previous videos in this series, the instructions for making the ball ornament itself is in the first video of this series, the Peter Parker ornament, and the link for it will be in the comments and in the description below. I will be explaining the process for decorating the Spider-Gwen ornament here. To start off with, I'm using the same acrylic paint colors as the last couple of days with Apple Barrel brand white, black, and bright red. I'm also adding two new colors of Dusty Mauve and Laguna. You'll also need a piece of paper for this project. I start off by painting the ornament with white paint for a base coat. Why am I painting the white ball white? Well, the paint is a brighter shade of white. After all, everyone knows about the different shades of gray, but there's also shades of white. We'll make the hood out of a scrap of paper. Just wrap the paper around the ball to give you an idea of how long to make it. You want the ends of your paper to be able to touch and have a little bit of room to overlap, so you have room to apply the glue. For the width of the hood, I'm just going to cut my paper approximately 3 ball lengths wide. It really doesn't matter because we're going to cut off the excess later. I apply a layer of mauve paint to the edge of the paper that will be the front of Gwen's hood. You could paint the whole paper if you wanted, but only the front centimeter or so will even have a chance of showing. Gwen has some bluish web lines on the inside of her hood, so I'm going to paint that with the Laguna paint. I think I should have made these lines thinner. Oh well, I can go back and apply more mauve paint on the edges of the lines to thin them out, but it looks like I'm going to need to do that off camera because my battery is getting low. Now that my camera has a bit more of a charge, we can move on. Gwen has some mauve shading around the eyes on her mask. I'm going to try to replicate that with my Dusty Mauve paint with some dry brushing. To do this, you dip your brush in the paint and wipe off most of the paint on a paper towel until there is very little remaining on your brush. And that looks terrible. Too much paint. I'm just going to give this another try on the other side of the ball. I could probably go with a bit more paint on this, but I think I'm going to leave it as is. It's better to be more subtle than to glob on the eye paint. After all, we don't want Gwen looking like she should be standing on a street corner, waiting for some guy to drive up on a goblin glider to pick her up. That wasn't a very nice joke. Gwen's eyes are rimmed with a darker pinkish color, so I'm going to mix up the black paint with my mauve to see if I can get it close. That looks kind of gross. Let's try adding some red. Better. It needs more red though. Now I'm going to apply this new blackish mauve color. Let's just call it Blauve to paint her eyes. I'm going to apply a couple of layers with white paint later on top to form the inside of her eyes. And while I'm painting, let's talk a little bit about Gwen. So Gwen's dead. At least in the main Marvel 616 Earth. Some dude on a goblin glider liked the look of her heavy eyeliner and took her for a ride. Then he tossed her off a bridge. Okay, I'm making that up, except for the part about the Green Goblin tossing her off a bridge. That did happen. But this Gwen we're making is from an alternate reality, where she received spider powers instead of Peter Parker, and she wasn't thrown off a bridge. I remember when Spider-Gwen's design was revealed, people went crazy over her costume. I'll admit it's an interesting design, but I still wonder why part of her shoes are blue. I've read Spider-Gwen's comics, but I still feel like I don't know much about her personality. I mean, sure, I know she's a drummer in a band, she loves her dad, and she feels guilty over Peter Parker's death, and Silk sometimes annoys her. Maybe I'm just nitpicking, but it feels like to me that Silk, who was created around the same time as Spider-Gwen, is a better developed character and more interesting to read about. Just my opinion though. But Gwen will always be special to me because I reviewed her Marvel Legends figure for my very first video on YouTube. It's a terrible video, but hey, we all start somewhere. Yesterday, I somehow got on the topic of potato superpowers, and a couple of you mentioned in the comments what kind of superpowers you would want. When I was a kid, my favorite superhero was Storm, because she could fly, shoot lightning bolts, and control the weather. If I had to pick now though, I would have a whole list of abilities like flight, invulnerability, teleportation, etc. That's totally overpowered though, so let's limit it to only one ability. What would you pick? I never considered shape-shifting powers before, but earlier this week I was reading New Avengers number 12, and Hulkling turned himself into a centaur. Completely unexpected. I love it. He can be his own My Little Pony. So that got me thinking. It could be a lot of fun to be a shapeshifter. Oh, I feel like being a tiger today. Or a unicorn. Nah, today I'm gonna turn into the goofy looking dragon on the Zubbie logo and burn down my archenemy's house. I mean, I'm gonna go save the world. Right after I burn down that house. I wouldn't be a good person to receive superpowers. I would abuse them for sure. Not saying I'd be a supervillain. Hopefully not. But I'd probably end up being a mercenary. Oh, you want my help? Where's my money, honey? So anyway, let me know what one superpower you'd pick in the comments down below. Now Gwen's head is painted, so let's go back to the piece of paper that will make her hood. Cover the painted areas with a layer of Mod Podge. I'm also going to cover all of Gwen's head with Mod Podge to protect the paint. Now I just center the paper on top of Gwen's head and try to have a little bit of the paper sticking out from the front of her head to make the hood. Then just wrap the sides down and meet the edges of the paper together at her chin. To shape the back of the hood, I just start by squeezing in the sides and then cut off some of the excess paper with scissors. I glue down the back side flaps before folding down the top back flap and apply more Mod Podge to secure everything down. If the front of Gwen's hood gets smooshed by your fingers, you can use a needle to push the paper back out to reshape it. The whole hood gets coated with a layer of Mod Podge to strengthen the paper. Once the Mod Podge is dry, you'll want to take a needle and poke from the bottom of the ornament out through the top of Gwen's hood, so you'll have room to insert a hook later on. Actually, I think I'm just going to put the head pin in now before I accidentally glue that hole shut. Next, apply a layer of white paint to the paper. Remember my stupid shades of white joke? Well, this white paint is going to be a brighter shade than the paper, especially since the other side of the paper was painted with a dark shade, so that's why I'm using the white paint. Once again, let the paint dry. Aren't these projects fun? There's a lot of watching paint dry. Actually, I don't stick around to watch it dry. I leave the room to do something else, get distracted, forget I was working on something until I re-enter the room later on for something else and it's like, oh yeah! Then I'm going to apply one more layer of Mod Podge to the hood to protect the white paint and to add even more strength to the hood. Once the glue is dry, we can twist the head pin above Gwen's hood and shape the end to form a hook. And here is the completed ornament. Isn't that cute? So, what are we doing next time? Well, that's up to you. There won't be any videos over the weekend because, well, I need a break. But next week we can either continue on with the spider ornaments, we could branch out into other character ornaments, or we could do something different. I had a request for a mini Santa hat, So we could possibly do that, or make a star for the tree, or a tree skirt, or maybe some presents to go underneath it. There's all kinds of possibilities, so let me know what we should work on next in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, spin around 3 times, feed your dog, and visit your grandma.